In the quiet corners of history, a different kind of warrior moved. They did not wear shining armor or seek glory on the battlefield. Instead, they walked in the shadows, masters of stealth and surprise. These were the ninja, the shadow warriors of feudal Japan. Their art was called Ninjutsu, a complete system for survival and accomplishing missions against impossible odds. It was more than just fighting. It was a way of thinking, moving, and living that allowed them to become one with the night. Ninjutsu was the tool they used to protect their families and communities when no one else could, a secret power hidden from the world. Many people think of ninjas as assassins dressed in black, performing impossible feats from movies. The reality is far more interesting and complex. Ninjutsu is a true martial tradition, one with a deep and authentic history. It is a practical art developed for real-world situations where failure could mean death. The ninja, or shinobi as they were more accurately called, were experts in gathering information using deception and understanding the psychology of their opponents. They were masters of their environment, able to use nature itself as a shield or a weapon. Their legacy is not one of fantasy, but of incredible human skill and resilience. The path of the ninja was one of intense dedication and constant learning. It required a deep understanding of the world, from the stars in the sky to the plants on the ground. This knowledge was their greatest weapon, more powerful than any sword or star. Ninjutsu taught them to be patient, to observe, and to act only when the moment was right. It was about controlling oneself before trying to control a situation. This inner strength, this spirit of endurance and awareness, is the true heart of the art. It is what allowed these shadow warriors to face powerful armies and achieve what others thought was impossible. Today, the spirit of ninjutsu lives on, far from the battlefields of ancient Japan. People from all walks of life now study this ancient art, seeking not to become spies or assassins, but to find a deeper connection with themselves and the world around them. They learn the same principles of awareness, adaptability, and perseverance that guided the shinobi of old. The veil of shadows has been partly lifted, revealing a profound and practical way of life. This essay will explore the true story of ninjutsu, from its misty origins to its vibrant practice in the modern world, uncovering the secrets of the shadow warriors. Ninjutsu did not appear overnight. Its origins are deep and complex, woven into the very fabric of Japanese history. The art began to take shape over 1,000 years ago, long before the famous age of the samurai. It grew out of necessity in the remote mountainous regions of Iga and Koga. These areas were difficult to access and fiercely independent. The people living there needed a way to protect themselves from bandits, warlords, and the central government's armies. They couldn't rely on large forces or heavy armor, so they developed unique methods of self-defense and guerrilla warfare. These early practices were the seeds from which ninjutsu would eventually grow. The development of ninjutsu was influenced by many sources. Chinese military strategy, particularly Sun Tzu's The Art of War, provided a philosophical foundation focused on deception and avoiding direct conflict. Mountain ascetics known as Yamabushi also played a crucial role. These spiritual warriors lived in the wilderness, developing incredible endurance and a deep knowledge of nature. They passed on their skills in survival, medicine, and mental discipline. Over generations, these different streams of knowledge, local defense tactics, Chinese strategy, and mountain mysticism, merged together to form a comprehensive system for survival, which became known as ninjutsu. The art truly flourished during Japan's Sengoku period, or the Warring States period, from the 15th to the 17th century. This was a time of constant civil war, where feudal lords or daimyo fought relentlessly for power and land. In this chaotic environment, the unique skills of the ninja became incredibly valuable. Daimyo began to hire ninja from the Iga and Koga regions to act as spies, scouts, and saboteurs. They needed people who could infiltrate enemy castles, gather crucial intelligence, and disrupt supply lines without engaging in open battle. The ninja provided a strategic advantage that could turn the tide of a war. The families in Iga and Koga organized themselves into clans, or RIU, each with its own specific traditions and techniques. These were not just schools for fighting, they were tight-knit communities bound by blood, loyalty, and secrecy. Knowledge was passed down from parent to child, a sacred trust that ensured their survival. They created a culture built around the principles of ninjutsu, living and breathing the art in their daily lives. It was this strong community structure and the secrecy it maintained that allowed ninjutsu to develop into one of the most sophisticated and effective systems of unconventional warfare in history. The training of a ninja, or shinobi, was rigorous and began at a very young age. It was a holistic education that covered every aspect of survival and mission accomplishment. A young ninja would learn physical skills, of course, but their mental and spiritual development was just as important. They practiced taijutsu, the art of unarmed combat, which focused on natural body movement, balance, and using an opponent's momentum against them. This training included striking, grappling, and joint locks, but also methods for escaping and evasion. The goal was not to win a fair fight, but to survive any encounter by any means necessary and continue the mission. Beyond hand-to-hand combat, the shinobi had to master a wide array of skills. They learned to move with absolute silence, a skill called shinobi iri, which involved special walking techniques and an awareness of every sound. They were trained to climb sheer walls, swim across moats without a ripple, and disappear into any environment. This required incredible physical conditioning, including running, jumping, and gymnastics to develop agility and endurance. They also studied meteorology to predict the weather, geography to navigate unfamiliar territory, and psychology to manipulate their enemies' perceptions and expectations. This vast body of knowledge made them adaptable to any situation. The tools of the ninja were practical and often disguised as everyday items. They were extensions of their skills, not magical weapons. The famous shuriken, or throwing stars, were not primary killing weapons, but tools for distraction or creating an opening to escape. The kunai was not a dagger, but a multi-purpose utility tool similar to a trowel used for digging, prying, or as a climbing aid. Another clever tool was the makibishi, or caltrops, small spiked objects scattered on the ground to injure and slow down pursuers. The ninja's ingenuity was their greatest asset, allowing them to turn simple farming tools or pieces of wood into effective instruments for their missions. Perhaps the most famous ninja tool was the shinobi shozoku, the iconic black outfit. However, the idea that ninjas always wore black is a misconception, largely from theater and film. A ninja's clothing was chosen for camouflage. If a mission took place at night, dark blue or grey was actually better for blending in with the darkness than pure black. If they needed to infiltrate a castle, they would disguise themselves as a guard, a monk, or a peasant. The principle was not to wear a uniform, but to wear whatever was necessary to remain unseen and unsuspected. Their clothing, like all their tools, was a practical solution to a specific problem. The daily life of a ninja was one of constant readiness and deep connection to their community. They were not lone assassins living in the dark, but members of a family and a village. Many ninja were farmers or craftsmen by day, living ordinary lives that served as the perfect cover. This dual existence was essential for their survival and for gathering information. By living among the common people, they could overhear conversations, observe the movements of officials, and understand the rhythms of the region without raising any suspicion. Their farm was their training ground, and their daily chores helped build the strength and endurance needed for their secret work. Training was not a separate activity, but was integrated into every part of their day. A simple walk through the woods was an exercise in silent movement and observation. Farming tasks like digging or carrying heavy loads built functional strength. Children learned to balance by walking along rice paddy dikes and developed agility by playing games that were actually training exercises in disguise. This constant practical application of their skills made ninjutsu a part of their very being. It was not something they did, it was who they were. Their mind was always active, always analyzing their surroundings for potential threats and opportunities. When a mission was assigned, the ninja's focus would shift entirely. The preparation was meticulous and could take days or even weeks. They would study maps, learn about the target's habits, and create multiple contingency plans. Disguise was a key element. A ninja might spend time developing a believable persona, whether a traveling merchant, a wandering entertainer, or a humble priest, to get close to their objective. This required not just a change of clothes, but a deep understanding of the role they were playing, including the right way to speak, walk, and behave. Their success depended on their ability to become someone else completely. The mission itself was a test of all their training. Whether it was to steal a document, sabotage a supply store, or deliver a secret message, the primary goal was always to return alive with the mission accomplished. Direct confrontation was a last resort, a sign that something had gone wrong. The ideal mission was one where the ninja was never even detected. They would use darkness, weather, and the layout of the land to their advantage, moving like a ghost through the enemy's territory. After the mission, they would return to their village and melt back into their everyday life, becoming a simple farmer once more, the secret of their journey hidden behind a quiet smile. The samurai and the shinobi were two distinct types of warriors in feudal Japan, often operating on opposite sides of the same conflict, yet they were fundamentally different in their philosophy, methods, and social standing. The samurai belonged to the ruling warrior class, a noble and respected part of the social hierarchy. Their identity was public and proud, defined by their lord, their clan, and their gleaming armor. They lived by a strict code of honor known as Bushido, the way of the warrior, which emphasized loyalty, courage, and glory in battle. For a samurai, a direct, open confrontation was the most honorable way to prove their skill and dedication. In stark contrast, the ninja or shinobi operated from the shadows. They were typically from the lower classes, often farmers or villagers from the Iga and Koga regions. Their identity was a secret, their methods hidden, and their social status insignificant. The ninja's code was not about honor or glory, but about survival and success. They followed the principles of Ninjutsu, which prioritized pragmatism, adaptability, and achieving the mission's objective by any means necessary. While a samurai would announce their name before a duel, a ninja sought to remain nameless and unseen. Their greatest victory was one where the enemy never knew they were there. Their approaches to combat were also worlds apart. A samurai's training focused on mastering specific weapons like the katana, longsword, and the yari, or spear, for use on the open battlefield. Their techniques were formal and designed for one-on-one duels or large-scale engagements. The ninja, on the other hand, was a specialist in unconventional warfare. Their training, taijutsu, was a complete system for self-protection that included unarmed techniques as well as the use of a wide variety of weapons and tools. They were taught to use whatever was available to exploit weaknesses and to avoid a fair fight at all costs, as such a concept was irrelevant to survival. Despite these differences, their worlds often intersected. It was not uncommon for a samurai lord to secretly hire ninja for tasks that Bushido would not permit. A samurai could not be seen sneaking into a castle to steal plans, but a ninja could. This created a complex relationship of reliance and disdain. The samurai needed the ninja's unique skills, but often looked down upon their methods as dishonorable. The ninja, in turn, served these lords for payment or to protect their own communities, understanding that their shadowy work was essential in a world governed by the samurai's sword. They were two sides of the same coin, light and shadow, both essential to the turbulent history of Japan. History is filled with the quiet footsteps of real ninjas whose actions shaped the course of events, even if their names were not always recorded. One of the most famous is Hattori Hanzo, a samurai from Iga province who was also a master of ninja tactics. He served the powerful warlord Tokugawa Ieyasu, who would later become the shogun and unify Japan. In 1582, when Ieyasu's ally, Oda Nobunaga, was assassinated, Ieyasu was trapped deep in enemy territory. It was Hattori Hanzo who guided him and his small group of followers on a perilous journey back to safety, using his knowledge of the land and his network of Koga ninja to navigate hidden paths and avoid capture. This single act saved the future shogun and changed Japanese history forever. Another legendary figure is Ishikawa Goemon, though his story is a mix of fact and folklore. He is often portrayed as a Japanese Robin Hood, a ninja who stole from the rich feudal lords and gave to the poor. While the historical details are debated, he represents a powerful symbol of rebellion against authority. The most famous story tells of his attempt to assassinate the powerful warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Goemon supposedly infiltrated Hideyoshi's castle but was discovered. His punishment was legendary. He was boiled alive in a large iron cauldron along with his young son. This dramatic end cemented his place in Japanese culture as a folk hero who defied the powerful. The kunoichi, or female ninja, also played a vital role, though they are often overlooked. One notable example is Mochizuki Chiyome, a noblewoman from the 16th century. After her husband, a warlord, was killed in battle, she was put in charge of a network of female spies by the famous daimyo Takeda Shingen. Chiyome recruited orphaned girls, war widows, and other displaced women, training them to be kunoichi. Disguised as shrine maidens, actresses, or servants, these women could infiltrate enemy strongholds and gather intelligence in ways that men could not. Kiyome's network was said to have hundreds of agents, providing Takeda Shingen with a significant strategic advantage. A fascinating mission from history showcases the ninja's skill in siege warfare. During the siege of a castle, a ninja was tasked with discovering the height of the castle walls so that siege towers could be built correctly. Direct measurement was impossible. The ninja waited for a dark, rainy night and approached the castle. He took a single grain of colored rice and placed it in his mouth. He then climbed the wall, and every time he placed his hand to get a new grip, he would take a grain of rice from a pouch and put it in his mouth. When he reached the top, he counted the grains. By measuring the length of his own arm reach, he could accurately calculate the wall's height. This simple, ingenious method demonstrates the true spirit of ninjutsu, solving impossible problems with cleverness and skill. When Japan was finally unified under the Tokugawa shogunate in the early 17th century, the long period of civil war came to an end. This era of peace, known as the Edo period, brought about profound changes for the entire country, and the ninja were no exception. The demand for spies, saboteurs, and guerrilla warriors drastically decreased. The great feudal lords no longer needed to hire ninja clans for secret missions. Many ninja families had to adapt to survive. Some integrated into the new society, taking on roles as guards, police officers, or even bodyguards for the shogun, using their unique skills in a more official capacity. With the decline of active warfare, the focus of ninjutsu began to shift. The art was in danger of being lost forever, as there were fewer and fewer real-world situations to apply it. To preserve their traditions, the heads of the ninja ryu, or schools, began to systematically record their knowledge. They wrote down their techniques, philosophies, and histories in secret scrolls called densho. These documents were carefully guarded and passed down through generations within the family. This act of preservation was crucial. It transformed ninjutsu from a purely practical art of war into a codified martial tradition that could be studied and practiced even in times of peace. Despite these efforts, ninjutsu largely faded from the public eye. The art went deep underground, practiced in secret by a few dedicated families who kept the flame of their heritage alive. For centuries, ninjutsu was shrouded in myth and misunderstanding, becoming the subject of fantastical stories in Japanese theater and art. The real, practical art was almost completely hidden from the world. It was seen as a relic of a bygone era, its true nature known only to a handful of direct descendants of the original ninja clans. The survival of ninjutsu depended entirely on the quiet dedication of these few individuals. The 20th century brought another major challenge. After World War II, Japan underwent rapid modernization and westernization. The traditional martial arts, or Budo, were seen by some as outdated. However, this period also sparked a renewed interest in Japan's unique cultural heritage. A few masters who held the lineage of the ancient ninja schools decided that the time had come to share their art with the world, lest it disappear completely. This was a monumental decision. It meant bringing an art based on secrecy out into the light, ensuring its survival by teaching it to a new generation of students both inside and outside of Japan. Today, ninjutsu is practiced by thousands of people all over the globe. The modern training hall, or dojo, is a world away from the mountains of Iga and Koga, but the core principles remain the same. Students learn through organizations headed by masters who can trace their lineage back to the historical ninja clans. The most well-known of these is Dr. Masaaki Hatsumi, the Grand Master of the Bujinkan organization, which teaches 9 traditional schools, some of which are samurai arts and some of which are ninjutsu. Through his teachings, the authentic art has spread from Japan to countries on every continent, creating a global community of practitioners. Training in a modern ninjutsu dojo is comprehensive. It still includes taijutsu, the art of unarmed body movement, which is the foundation of the system. Students learn to move naturally and efficiently, using timing, distance and angling to control a situation. They practice strikes, kicks, throws and joint locks, but always within the context of self-protection, not sport. The training also involves traditional weapons such as the sword, staff and spear, not as historical artifacts, but as tools to understand principles of movement and strategy that apply even to modern situations. The goal is to develop adaptability and resourcefulness. However, modern ninjutsu is about much more than just physical techniques. The true essence of the training is the cultivation of a certain kind of spirit. It is about developing what the Japanese call fudoshin, or the immovable mind, a state of calm and resilience in the face of pressure or danger. Students learn to be aware of their surroundings, to anticipate problems and to remain centered under stress. This mental and spiritual training is what makes ninjutsu a complete way of life or a martial art, rather than just a collection of fighting moves. It is this aspect that many modern students find most valuable in their daily lives. The application of ninjutsu today has evolved from the battlefield to the challenges of modern living. The principles of stealth and deception are now interpreted as effective communication and understanding psychology. The ability to survive in the wilderness translates into resilience and problem-solving in a complex world. A student of ninjutsu learns to see connections, to find the path of least resistance, and to protect themselves and their loved ones not just from physical harm, but from the stresses and conflicts of the 21st century. The modern dojo is a laboratory for learning how to live a more aware, capable, and fulfilling life. The enduring popularity of ninjutsu in our modern world might seem surprising at first. We live in an age of advanced technology, not feudal warfare. Yet people continue to be drawn to the path of the shadow warrior for reasons that are timeless and deeply human. And one of the primary reasons is the art's focus on practicality and realism. Unlike many sport-based martial arts, ninjutsu is not concerned with rules, points, or competitions. It is a system of self-protection designed for real-world situations, teaching a person how to handle conflict in the most efficient and safest way possible. This practical approach to personal safety is incredibly appealing. Furthermore, ninjutsu offers a path to personal empowerment that goes beyond physical skill. The training builds a profound sense of self-awareness and confidence. As students learn to control their bodies, they also learn to control their minds and emotions. They develop patience, perseverance, and the ability to think clearly under pressure. This is the spirit of the shadow warrior, not a spirit of aggression, but one of quiet strength, adaptability, and an unshakable will to endure. This inner development is what truly empowers individuals, giving them the tools to navigate the challenges of life with greater calm and capability. The mystique and rich history of the ninja also play a part in the art's appeal. The image of the shadow warrior moving unseen and accomplishing the impossible sparks the imagination. While modern training focuses on reality over myth, this connection to a legendary past gives the art a unique depth and character. To practice ninjutsu is to become part of a living tradition that stretches back for centuries. It is a way of touching history, of connecting with the struggles and ingenuity of those who came before. This sense of lineage and purpose adds a layer of meaning to the training that many people find deeply rewarding. Ultimately, the reason the ninja's path continues is because it answers a fundamental human need, the desire to be capable and free. Ninjutsu teaches that true freedom comes from within. It is the freedom from fear, the freedom to adapt to any circumstance, and the freedom to protect what is important to you. The world may have changed, but these desires have not. The spirit of the ninja, the spirit of awareness, survival, and quiet determination, is as relevant today as it was in the mountains of feudal Japan. It is a path for anyone who wishes to walk through life with their eyes open, ready for whatever the shadows may hold.